Never seen a smile so big on my little Lord lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Oh, it's awesome to be back. I'll tell you, what a whirlwind the last 2 weeks have been. What's up, Barry? How you doing, Manny? Looking forward, buddy. I put the sauce in the freezer, so I'm looking forward to finding some time to eat that. So the sauce queen, I can't wait to give my review. I know it's going to be out of this world, but needless to say, I am looking forward to that. Howdy. How's everybody doing? How's your weekend? You know, if you're in the Ontario area or even out west, you know, where you're dealing with unbelievable cold, what weather we're having. Depending on where you are, this is the first of 2 big bouts of snow that we're supposed to get, not to mention some bitterly cold here and there. For those who were out in Ottawa, it was the storm that didn't happen. I know you guys got hammered out this way. Steve and I managed to trek out east towards Ottawa. We'll be talking about that tonight, but hope everybody's safe. Hope everybody's warm, cozy. You got a cup in front of you, whether it be hot chocolate or your favorite beverage, and you're going to sit back because you're going to be entertained. There's going to be lots going on tonight. So let's first say hello to everybody. Terry's in the house. How you doing? Steve Shaw, as I mentioned. Big shout out to Steve. We'll get to that as well. Richard Dunlop, Sally, the usuals are here. And you know what? It means a lot. I can't thank all of you enough. Walter, big shout out to you, my friend. You were manning the fort while we were gone. It was busy. It looked busy. Steve and I mentioned many times the inbox. It kept ringing notifications of more pictures. So we'll get to all that. Steven, how you doing? Good to see you, Steven. Bob, isn't it? Nice to see you, my friend. Great to meet you in person out in the Ottawa show. For all those who did come to the Ottawa show, as I mentioned, we will be talking about that a little bit going on. Eve, great to see you as well at the show. Corey's always here from way out west. How's the weather out your way, Corey? Fernando, another one we met. Like the list just goes on and on. Fernando and your son, I'll tell you, it was an honor to meet you both. Classes in the house. Jeremy's here. How you doing? No snow here yet? Nothing? No? Well, I'll tell you, you're lucky. Sonia's been busy. That was a nice pike you caught, Sonia, by the way. Love seeing that. Mark, we'll be getting to you this week, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of things, as I said, happening in CFN land, and it's all because of you folks. And I'll be honest, I'm so proud of what's gone on sort of in front of my eyes as well as behind the scenes. And one thing that I do have to mention, this has been a huge hit. The Winter Fish Fest, and Mike Consul's going to be coming on tomorrow. We're going to be talking about that. So there's no Valentine's. There's no reasons that we'll probably be on at 7:30. I will say that we'll probably be on a little bit later than the 7 o'clock start. We'll be on at 7:30, but we want to wrap up because it is the last day tomorrow. Did I mention it's the last day? It's the last day of the Winter Fish Fest. As of right now, I believe we are approaching 4,000 entries. 4,000 entries. 4,000. Unbelievable. And I think Bill Landry has 25% of that, quarter of them. I think he's got 1,000 on his own. He has been one busy lad. But this has been, as I said, been a huge success. The My Catch app, as well as what's on Facebook. We will be going through and verifying all of that in the coming days and weeks. Prizes will be going out as they are allotted. Mike and I will be doing our best to get at that and making sure we announce our winners. For everyone who participated, can't thank you enough. You have made this memorable. It has been something to to sit back in awe and just go, wow, what a community. You guys nailed it. And I can't thank all of these sponsors enough for making this happen. Yeah, without these folks, it just doesn't happen. Ugly Boys, Meegs, and Jillian, we really love your videos that you do all the time. North Shore Tackle, Camp Macintosh, who we will talk about the show. Big shout out to them for a great prize packet, of course. POW Castings. What you have done, Brad, has really helped, provide us prizes that make it worthy for us to have folks participate. I mean, a lot of folks just like to participate for the fun, but it is kind of cool when you're able to get a cool prize pack. So these prize packs will be announced, will be put together. Some will be going out sooner than later. But again, a big shout out to my buddy Brad Powell from Powell Castings. Look at the logo. Know this logo. This logo represents a new beginning at CFN, and a very worthy sponsor and someone that's going to help out in the future when it comes to establishing some of our programs, some of our events, and helping our community. And you will see that as we go forward. Also, big shout out to this man who, as I said, this past weekend, it was the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show. Can't thank Jim enough for setting this all up. It was awesome. We were talking about it just before we went live, the number of people that went through on the Saturday especially. I'll be interested to see what the totals are. I know Jim's going to be talking to Scott, one of the directors of the show, to see where we're at in terms of attendance. But I will say this, it was shoulder to shoulder on Saturday. I've never seen that many kids. I've never seen that many people. The casting pond was an absolute hit. And for those who don't know, of course, Big Jim McLaughlin is the first Canadian that has been inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, and he is getting ready to head down to Tennessee to claim his prize. And what a prize it is. I'll tell you, he is still giddy about winning. I know he's excited. It'd be interesting to see how this is all going to. They've been asking for a whole bunch of pictures. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I will say this, man, it's an honor to know this gentleman. It's an honor to call him a friend. And as a community, as a fishing community and the industry as a whole, we can't thank Big Jim enough for creating what he has. And as I said, it was on full display this past weekend at the Ottawa Show. Also on display at the Ottawa Show, of course, was the Winter Weekend Getaway. We had a bunch of those pamphlets that you see on the left from Camp Macintosh. Gave a ton of those out. That was what was left. That little bit of pamphlets there. A lot of folks came by, entered. They liked and shared. They scanned it. They took the brochure. They're probably going to book trips, even outside of the giveaway, whether they win or lose. They were fascinated by where the location was, how close it was, the fishing. Then you had people that we didn't even know started talking about it right in front of us. So it's really cool when you're able to make those kind of connections, if you will. And as I said, Camp Macintosh, if you don't know, these are the folks who own it. This is where you go to book it. That's the phone number you call to get in contact. And that is a great water shot of the lodge where you're going to enjoy some incredible dining. You're going to share some memories and a few laughs. And as I said, I can't say enough about Camp Macintosh and, of course, their support of our CFN community. As I mentioned, it was the Ottawa Show. It was nice to see some people that I have yet to meet in person. Lisa, it was an honor to meet you, John Anderson, as well, from the Muskies. And I got to tell you, it was an awkward moment. Went to the Muskies booth. I was so surprised to see Lisa. Ran over there to try and sneak up on her. And when I backed off after giving her the biggest hug, I ended up ruining the display. It all fell down on the floor, and it was a grand mess. I'll tell you, and I'll say this is why muskie anglers hate us walleye anglers. We make a mess of everything. We just make an absolute mess of everything. But as I said, big shout out to Steve, who helped out in a huge way at the casting pond, which of course was a real hit with all the kids. That Steve up there. Well, the two Steves, actually, Steve Barnett and, of course, Jen. big. I mean, those two, Steve and Jen, hats off to the two of you. You know, they brought snacks, they brought water, just a great attitude. Great people. I've never met either one of them before. I'll tell you this: I can't wait to spend some more time with the both of them. They were absolute gems. Another gem, of course, was Sam Cook. The smile says it all. Like every child that came up, that smile that Sam has. I don't know, ladies. Good luck with this lad, because once he gets the claspers on you, you're done. He is endearing, to say the absolute least. But all the kids that came through had a great time, won some incredible prizes, that, of course, that were put together by Jen, by Tammy, by Big Jim, by Steve. Extreme cooperative effort. And speaking of cooperative effort, of course, it was great to see all you CFNers who showed up to see our colors. You know, we were invited to this show in hopes of building back the fishing aspect of it, and I think we did this in a great way. Couldn't have happened without all of you showing up with, wearing your colors as you did, and helping out at the booth, saying hello, sharing some tips and tricks with some of the folks that came around. But it was kind of like a meet and greet for CFN, really, especially on the Saturday and the Sunday. It was just like a meet and greet. So thanks to all of you who did this. And of course, congratulations to Andy Locke. He found the key. So if anybody who's come by the Spring Fishing and Boat Show in Mississauga and now Ottawa, we have managed to give 2 Symmetry combos, courtesy of Shimano, away to 2 lucky OFC Nationers. And Andy was the second of the 2. We are also going to be giving away at the CanCast show in Peterborough. So if you are one of the third, we have 4 in total to give away, a chance of 4 to give away. And as I said, we gave the second away to Andy Locke, who it was awesome to see everybody sort of gather around when he picked the key, opened it, and what are you going to do, man? Everybody's like, whoa, he actually won? There's actually a key in there? So what I can say is, if you are coming or thinking about coming to the CanCast show in Peterborough, please do so, because you have a chance to not only win a Symmetry combo, but if you are one of the lucky winners of the Symmetry combo, your name's going to go in a hat, and our buddy Moose is going to be coming on later. We will pick the name of the winner of the Zodius rod and the Vanford combo. It's worth about $700-800. Again, thanks so much to Shimano, who have given this to us to give away to our community, and it's quite a prize. So, of course, you know what? It's worth the price of admission if you can take home a Zodius and Vanford. Last but not least, in terms of announcements, of course, I can't thank Horwood Lake Lodge enough for doing all the posting on my page to remind our CFNers of the CFN 5th Annual Retreat 2023. It's going to be happening in August. I know that Doris and Warren are taking reservations. I want to believe we're probably close to 2/3 full. I'm hoping we're getting closer to 3/4 full, and eventually a full house. But that is building. Again, we had on display, thanks to Moose for putting that together, but we had on display some of the upcoming events for OFC and CFN. And of course, those were on full display. And a lot of people, asked, what do you guys do? Like, what is it you do? Well, it's easy when you have Camp McIntosh and Horwood Lake Lodge to talk about, because it interests a lot of people. So again, can't thank those 2 supporters in a huge way for making this all happen. I will say this: there's probably a million comments that I have not gotten to, and I know Steve is busily posting. Thanks, Steve. This is something that we'll be putting up later when Moose comes on, because he's going to be talking about this. But again, Steve, buddy, it was awesome to share some time with you. It was awesome because I'll tell you, if it wasn't for you especially on that Saturday, a lot of stuff probably would have gotten stolen, never mind sold, because we were busy with the kids. There were so many kids that came by on Saturday. So anybody that didn't get a chance to talk to, give a hug, a shake of a hand, a kiss on the cheek. I forgive me, but there was a lot of you to get around. But again, Dave Chong, who was there, Brent Bochek, Danny, Lily and Lucy, who helped out at the casting pond. Big shout out to you, Pete. I met Peter, who owns that tackle store, which Jim can help me out with the name. It escapes me, but there's just so many cool things, so many cooperative things that happen. Everybody was there to help each other out, especially when it came to putting the displays up and taking the displays down. So, Lewis, your wife, and your young daughter, who did take a bit of a swim into the casting pond, which was kind of neat to see, but not neat to see. It was cool. Anyway, I can't say enough, but I will say this. Coming up next, the one, the only, Big Jim McLaughlin. And of course, we have to start it with our theme song. The one, the only, the master of disaster, the myth, the legend.
No disasters on the weekend.
And everything in between.
Except for my body.
See, how tired are you today, Jim?
Actually, I went to bed at 10:30 last night. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, and I had a quick nap this afternoon. One of my buddies came knocking on the door just after I was going to have a little trip. We went and did groceries and everything because Tammy'd been alone here for 4 or 5 days with the grandkids and whatever. But no, it was a great weekend. It's one of those things about Saturday afternoon there. I was getting pretty beat up. It's a little more for me now than it used to be. And I'm sitting there and I thought to myself, I think I'm going to find someone to do this for the next year. And then by the time I got home here with Lewis and unloaded the truck, I was jacked and ready to go back and start all over again.
Well, you know what, Jim? And it's funny that you say that because, it's Evan, Fernando's son. This is a perfect example. You see that child who had all kinds of energy, and it makes it all worthwhile when you see that level of excitement and that level of appreciation. He came up, I don't know how many times, and said thank you. Fernando texted me as well as you and said he couldn't stop talking about the show on the way home.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
That's what we do. I listen, and I've only sort of started doing this and compared to you. You were talking to some folks that have been. It's amazing to hear some of the number of years.
Well, one of the funny things was some of the things that we had on the table, the gifts for the kids, the prizes. Some of them were there was some of those pog things in there. So, and the parents were saying, "Wow, I got these at the pool here 20 years ago." We had 2 or 3 kids say, because there was a guy that worked for the company that gave me a box of them. I could hardly carry. I mean, this was 20 years ago. I could hardly carry the box. And, they're not very big packages. There's probably like 1,000 of them in the box.
Yeah.
And that was the last 3 or 4. They've been kicking around for a couple of years, and the kids picked them all up. But when you brought that young guy over to me there, and I had given his kid a fishing rod, and he told me, well, it made our family come together. We all go fishing all the time now and stuff like that. That's why I slug away and I do all these things. They were just asking me from the Hall of Fame here today for more photos and things, and I was looking back through photos that Tammy was helping me with other ones to find them all and everything else. And I was looking back through it, and I thought to myself, some of the things there's been there's 40 years of it there. There's so much that I forget. And the pond, well, I'm trying to think, it's got to be 25 years almost. Pretty close to. But you know what a cool thing for me is to watch the people that volunteered or were working there, watch them, to watch you sit on the edge of that dock with a kid casting, to watch Steve get up on the dock, to watch Steve dealing with the people. Every time I looked over, he was smiling or talking to somebody.
Yeah.
I think he was like, besides me, he was like second place as the biggest kid.
Yeah.
There. Like he was just enjoying himself, like he's having a good time, and it's all pretty laid back. Everybody has a great time, but that young lad Sam that was there, and then Jennifer running around with Lewis's little one, and then then we had the swimming lessons as you talked about. I never saw a kid go in the water and get out as fast as Belle did.
No, 100%.
I don't. The water's what, 4 inches?
Yeah,
maybe 5. I don't think she actually touched the bottom except with her feet. She face planted. She was back up before she sank into the water and out, And then, it's just things like that. And then there was just some of the things you see, though. The number of little kids playing at the side of the pond there. And, remember the 2 that were playing with the net, and then I had to go over and say, guys, do you think you could,
They're soaking. Your kids are soaking wet. Like I know you're enjoying the conversation, but these 2 are going to be frozen solid together on the way out of the doors.
I know, but it's just really cool for me to watch the people because there's so many different ones, and that was your first time around that type of an event.
Yeah,
with all the kids like that, and it's overwhelming. It's when you watch those little kids at that pond playing with those little ducks. When I was talking to Scott, the show manager, the other day on Saturday afternoon, I said to him, what would be really cool is we're going to change it next year. We're only going to have half the pond, and it's going to be just for the kiddies and have more access along the front. But I said, I wonder if we could do a separate little thing at the end that would have a little bit of a higher thing where the kiddies could go and play with the ducks at the edge of the water.
Yeah, 100%.
Where they can go and, you'd have to put up a sign, no swimming, like whatever, because somebody will have their kid in there, it's
But Sean, you know what? Sean has a comment here, and it basically summarizes exactly what I witnessed, what I saw, and how a lot of people feel when it comes to you, Jim. At the end of the day, that gentleman that came up to me and said, you really got my kid into fishing when you guys handed him that rod. And I said, well, it wasn't me, but can you come over here and tell this bundle of joy over here that same story you just told me? And it was awesome.
I haven't been called a bundle of joy since for like 69 years.
Well, the minute he started talking about it, as I said, the smile was from ear to ear. But Sean, you obviously share the same as a lot of folks did when they came up. Even the kids, as soon as they rounded the corner and they saw it, like the eyes they
know it. A lot of those kids have been to it before.
Yeah, 100%.
We see that. It's a really cool thing. And like you said, I've got to talk to Scott. I'm thinking that Saturday was the busiest day they've ever had in that building.
I dare say, I don't know how
the way they made smaller aisles and things, and they condensed a lot of the free space into different shapes and things.
Yeah.
But so we didn't use the other hall on the other side of the wall there.
Yeah.
Because we were usually the casting pond just to be right at the door. We showed you to go out. The tables were in the corner. You'd have to walk in front of the doors, and then the pond was right along the wall on the outside wall. Yeah. So, but I mean, it was still there was times, and I mean, like the seminars were all well attended, even the ones earlier and later, they were really good out there. They got lots of people, and of course I committed the big faux pas, and I stayed up. I was up there for about an hour and 5 minutes, so I'm telling everybody else it's a half hour. I put the hook in me. That's why when I go to get this award, it's going to be a little funny for me to get up in front of a crowd like that of absolute peers. Like, I mean, all the guys that are going to the Bassmaster Classic and their wives and all the entourage and everything else, eh? But the first thing I'm saying is what Tammy already told me already. You'll have your 4 or 5 pages. They told you 5 minutes. Stick to the paper. Get your points, And I said, no, points don't work because if you have a point, you can expand on it. That's like a seminar thing. There's 5 points and it takes an hour. You can't give me 5 pages of points. The tournament will be started in the morning and I'll still be talking. I'll have to send you up on a stage to chuck me out.
I'm not looking forward to that if that happens. But
get a run at me. It was good.
Better take a run. Yeah, better take a run.
Hope I don't sidestep because you'll be back in Canada before you know it.
But it was awesome, Jim. As I said, you've touched a lot of people. At the heartstrings, especially, and what you've done.
Everybody helping me. Like all the people that volunteer, the guys that volunteer to speak. Now, the guys that volunteer to speak, they want it for their sponsors, but they still do it.
Yeah,
it's what it is. And I mean, guys like John Anderson and Lisa the Muskie, Dr. Sean Landsman came out and spoke because Dr. Cook was busy, and things like that. And like having you guys there was really, really good with the CFN. I know on Saturday there, you Thursday, Friday, you were getting worried about all the clothes you had to sell, and then on Saturday it certainly picked up a good bit. So
I will say this: Moose will be coming on here later, and he is much like yourself, grinning from ear to ear. It certainly helped out in a big way. And again, I can't thank Steve.
But like I say, my biggest takeaway from that obviously is the kids.
Yeah,
the faces. That's why I have about 20 pictures here. Like Tammy kept saying to me, every time I get a picture of some kids hugging a little stuffy or whatever, I send it to her, and she'd send me back a note. Like, oh, geez, I wish I was there. Oh, geez, I wish I was there. That kind of thing. But having all you guys there to help and make it happen to me is the deal. Like I know
and that's it, Jim. It's about paying it back, paying forward. I mean, they're all cliches at the end of the day, but it is what it is. And I will say, Jen and Steve Barnett. Those two,
Steve's been with me for like 20 years, right?
Yeah, what a partnership those two are. It was a hoot listening to the banter. I mean, you talk about a big kid or a medium-sized kid with a big kid heart. Steve Barnett, I don't know.
Hey, he can fish too. He's won like half a dozen Renegade tournaments.
He was fish. Right in there, man. He loved it. With anyway, I could go on and on, but you're right. It was an experience and a half. And as I said, Jim, thanks for the opportunity. And, of course, thanks to the folks who run the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show for the opportunity to invite us there and sort of strut our stuff, but at the same time, just to help spread the word. But I'm looking forward to next year. I will say this, for you muskie folks, if you love muskie, John and Lisa's presentation was probably up there in terms of the most popular in terms of...
Well, Dr. Landsman, too.
Well, so I was going to get to that.
Yeah.
And that is one presentation that I wish I had time to actually sit down and listen to. What he was sharing, and every once in a while you'd be able to listen to a little bit. Like that was a lot of information.
Talk to Daniel. He may have taped it.
Oh, good. I'd love to see that. It was an incredible presentation.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremy's asking, of course, are you going to be at CanCast?
I believe so.
There you go. That's the spirit. Now we have.
I mean, it's going to take 3 of you to keep me out of there. So.
Yeah. So when it comes to, speaking of which, a lot of the takeaways and a lot of things that were shared in terms of folks that wanted to know a little bit about, presentations to use. There was nothing that was left untouched when it came to the sharing of information. And if you are, this is what these shows are great for. It's great to see all the boats. It's great to see what's available. Of course, Tackle Depot had a lot of stuff.
He did very well.
Yeah, they did.
It was really nice. He came over at the end and gave me 100 bags of plastic towards next year.
Yep.
Things like that. It's pretty cool. I got another box here from some guys I spoke with. It showed up on Friday.
Yeah.
It didn't get here in time. It's what it is. It happened, but it'll be there next year too. Or I'll use some of it at other kids' things.
Yeah.
But it was nice too because Steve took the time to go and get some of those really nice. Like there was a dad came back and he said to me, there was one of those motorized trucks that the kids got. He came back and he said, "Are we supposed to have this?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, my oldest, who was about 12, just looked this up on the internet. It's $129, and he thought it was somebody's." So what they do is the guys that fish in Renegade, we used to get them on the first tournament of the year. they had to bring a toy.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're driving a $125,000 boat with an $80,000 truck pulling it, and you got $10,000 worth of sonar on the boat, you're not worried about dropping $100 on a toy for a kid at Toys R Us.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of the guys did. And it's really, really cool. That's why some of those kids got fantastic toys.
Yeah.
But as you've seen, Scotty, some of the kids wanted one of those little X and O's rubber twister things. I don't know what they're called. Tammy got them on the little bubbles that they play,
Yep.
Those little slap rulers.
We had spinners, slap rulers. There was
The
a lot
kids
of
loved those. They were running around screaming, putting them on and off, like things like that. And yet they've got, beautiful. They got stuffies up there. They still have the price tags on that Tammy got that were, $22.95, and she shakes the guy down at Loblaws and gets them all for $2 a piece or something.
Yeah. And one of the cutest things that I saw was the one girl that came up, and she had just won a prize for herself. She went away and she came up to me and she said, Can I go again? And I said, well, we're usually, doing it one at a time, and we're trying to keep as many, gifts. I said, why did you want to do it again? She says, I want to win something for my dad for bringing me. And how do you say no to that? How do you say no to that? Right? Cool stuff. George is asking any good muskie recipes. It's interesting that you mentioned this, George, and of course he's just being funny, but they were a popular table fare at one point. And of course it's tough for us sport anglers to
nobody had any food.
Yeah. To think of it as table fare, but it was interesting to talk to a lot of the folks that are in that area that have targeted muskie for a very long time and just listen to how it's evolved and how perhaps maybe back in the day they were consumed much like sturgeon were or what have you. But at the end of the day, the sheer sport of it and the conservation, the respect of that resource is paramount. And again, I can't thank John and Lisa enough for their presentations, because they went through in great detail how we're supposed to properly handle them, what we can do when the water temperatures start to rise to make sure that their release is one that will see them actually survive. So again, there was some great information shared. As great as the show is, do not pass up the seminars, because you might.
No, we're going to try to make them better next year. I called somebody about coming. They're a 3-hour drive away, and if they're not busy, there's a chance that they may come over for the day.
Nice.
And do something. And if they do, it'll fill the end of the building. So, and we've had them all. I've had Mercer, I've had Izumi, I've had everybody's found their way. But I say George mentioned about the recipes for muskies. When you cast a jig out in the tree and you get it stuck and you pull it, it comes out of the tree and it comes back and it hits you really hard.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a jig for George for thinking about that. I've got my jig out again, George. I want to get this stuck in a tree, and I want to see you 100-pound Power Pro. I want to see you yank this out and have it come back at you.
Yeah.
I'll put it away for now.
And Jen, yes, to your point, most likely it will be a larger area that's used for the presentations. Question and answer. If you didn't ask a question, that I'd have to point at the person that didn't ask the question, because they certainly took a lot of questions and they were open. And even after their presentation was done, they spent a lot of time with the folks going over.
There's no other places there. It's not like some of the other halls. There's no separate. And we've tried seminars in separate halls before. We did the HT ice fishing thing at the show a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they had signage out front to lead you there, and it was actually free. You didn't even have to attend the show.
Yeah.
It was done out in the lobby. When that beautiful lobby that runs down the front of the building? There's 3 or 4 big meeting rooms, and I mean big. They'd be like 3 times the size of the booth we had, the whole area. And we had one in there, and we got like 20 people.
Jeez.
And yet there's 40 or 50 chairs in the seminar area at the pond. And the same day they filled up for every seminar.
Yeah.
So it's, but no, we addressed that. We're going to make it, like I said, we're going to split the pond in half. It's going to be about I think it's about 38%. So it'll be, a little over a third of it will be used for the kids. And they'll be casting at the wall, at that display on the wall. And the seminar area will be to the other side. And they'll put those 4-foot curtains or 3-foot curtains around it.
Yeah.
close it off so you don't have people coming out and in and walking through and everything else. Plus, the problem is that sometimes when you start with the seminars, when it's not a divided area, it spills out into the aisle.
Yeah.
And if the fire guys are around, they'll come along and.
Well, that I will say that. I mean, not that we were, anywhere close to any kind of infringement, but
Oh no,
I was worried on Saturday because that was a huge crowd on Saturday.
Well, the end of the building gets congested because they got the kids. Of course, when kids start running around,
yeah,
mayhem breaks. They're everywhere. Everything just comes to a halt.
Yeah.
You had the one big fishing booth, and they spill out of that around it.
Yeah.
They're trying to listen to a seminar. They're trying to look at the big boat they had at the end, and
yeah,
it just sort of congests the whole area. Good thing they didn't have the pepperoni guy there because we'd have been done.
Absolutely. And George, I will say this: I appreciate your honesty, and I would say that most anyone that has done a presentation side by side with the likes of Big Jim may not have been smoked, but we certainly know our place. And he remembers.
I still have the book you gave me, George, about the walleye surveys.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild. And as I said, for folks who are going to be joining us next week, it is our ladies' night with Yvonne Brown. Aaron Wilson is going to be the special guest. Soak in as much of Jim as you can. Jim won't be with us next week. We have an action-packed show in regards, as I said, to Ladies' Night and Walter Huck out in Saskatchewan. They're going to be talking about the Ice Jam that we're going to be having as a meet and greet for CFNers. Dr. Chris Summers is going to be coming on here to talk about the tagging that they're planning to do. So really interested. And George, you're going to want to tune into this because, as I said, I'm really honored to have Dr. Chris Summers on here to talk about anything that man does, because it's truly amazing what him and his research.
Yeah, you should have introduced yourself to me by name. Yeah. There's so many people that I see their faces and, hi, how are you? And I know them, and I don't realize their names.
Yeah.
I don't always catch, because there's, you meet there's just so many people. I get people call me, and like they message me, they phone the office number here, and I answer the phone, and they say, can I leave a message for Big Jim? And I say, yeah, go ahead, it's me. And they go, oh, really? Like,
I will say, Bill, I wish I was coming to Saskatchewan, dude. I truly, truly, truly wish I was. But we'll try and bring Saskatchewan to Ontario and vice versa next Monday, right after Ladies' Night.
Let's go to Saskatchewan, then Nashville.
Yeah.
You leave tomorrow.
At some point, I will have a free flight. I can guarantee it. Luke Gerard was there as well this weekend. Nice to see him. These are all notables that show up here every Monday. It was awesome, dude. Absolutely awesome. But the takeaway from this past weekend is, Jim, dude, you have I don't know. You can't say enough about what you've done for the community, for the people, for the industry. And of course, again, it was on full display with the Ottawa show. The number of people that couldn't wait to come up and see you, shake your hand, give you a congratulations. Did you sign many autographs, by the way?
Yeah, there was quite a few.
I can imagine. Hopefully,
I know when I get onto a second Sharpie, then I keep them for addressing packages because they're really thick lines then. You like to use them only for about I'll maybe sign 30, 40 things with it. And then the end starts to get a little rounded off and it gets thick and it's hard to write across the card. So it's good. I had a guy disappointed. I told him he wanted me to sign a shirt. And I said, I don't sign shirts because they get messed up. And he said to me, what do you mean? And I said, well, when you're left-handed, when you go across the material, because the pen leads with the point, it digs in. And people don't understand. So many people confused, they look at me. So if you have a pen, a Sharpie, let me grab one here. I've got 50 of them everywhere. So you got the Sharpie and you're writing across. The point of the pen digs into the material. If you're right-handed, it slides away. I told that to Azumi one day. He said, why don't you want to sign the shirts? I said, because I'll ruin them all. It'll dig in, sometimes you can do it. If you get the material, if you were to stretch it over something really, really like a piece of plywood, around it, so it's taut, then you can do it. But if you have any kind of, it's not good. All good people are left-handed. POHL, buddy.
George would know.
Phantom overhand left.
Well, Jim, anything else that you wanted to share with us before we move on to Lawrence? And,
So on the weekend there's a couple of days I had a bit of grief with my movement,
Mhm.
getting up and down and whatever and that kind of thing. I have no problem. I mean, I can still stand up out of the chair without pulling myself up or anything like that. I have no problem with that. My legs are still like, like jackhammers. But I get up this morning and it was almost like there was nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
I walked through the house, along the house is through here from, down in the other end. And I just walked through, heel to toe, down the stairs into the office here. Went to the dump, no problem. We went and did groceries. So, anyways, tomorrow is my wedding anniversary. And all you ladies, I remembered. 40 years tomorrow.
40
years.
Well,
40
listen,
years tomorrow.
On behalf of all of us at CFN, happy anniversary. If you could, do it for us. Give Tammy a big hug and a kiss. Because as I said, if it isn't for that lady, we don't.
I told you before, I asked her to marry me like a week after I met her, right?
Wow. I'd
been with a girl for 2 years and she went through a horrible abusive divorce. And that was the first thing she looked at, and I guess it worked.
Wow. Well, you know what? True love is usually seen at first hand and at first glance, and all those.
Steve and Jennifer. I said to him last night, when he was leaving, I said to him, I gave him a little something, and I said, here, take Jennifer out for a really nice dinner. So I just get home to the garage here with Lewis, and we're loading the stuff out of the truck. I backed up, and he took all those big boxes out of the back, just slid them off into the garage, so it was right at the door. And I see this message pop up, and they're at the Golden Palace in Ottawa. She loves going there. And I said, so you should have just enough for dinner and a box of egg rolls to go. And he said, no, the egg rolls to go are like $50 a dozen. Now,
Hey, Jeremy, whatever it takes, dude. We can't get enough of our weekly dose of Big Jim. So I will suck up and get on bended knee, do whatever it takes to keep this man coming here.
You know what, guys? Scotty offered, there was a chance I may not have gone to this thing in Nashville. A chance, because I'm not ready to be pushed through an airport in a wheelchair. And there's a chance I may not have gone. So Scotty just piped right up and said to me, dude, I'll drive you. So he's stuck with me now. He's got no choice.
That's it, buddy. Absolutely.
We're going to go down there for a couple of days, and he'll strap me to the roof like a moose, put sunglasses and a cigarette in the side of my mouth, and drive me back across the border.
And it's totally my honor, but there was no way I was going to let you miss that. And folks, I'm going to be taking you along with me. We'll be taking pictures and small little videos that we can that are still family orientated along the way.
You don't have to worry about anything else now.
No, I want to share the experience with all of you, because at the end of the day, it'll
be a hoot. I don't know what they're going to give me. I don't know if it's a plaque, a trophy, or kicking the Harrison out the door with a cold drink, but I'll be hugging it the whole way home. Let me tell you.
Thelma and Louise.
That's funny.
I don't know. I'll be Louise.
I can find out where you live, Jeremy?
Right on, dude. Well, Jim,
hang on. Before I go, I know I got to go. I'm way over time here. As you see, this is why I have to have the paper and read it. It's so me. Am I Thelma or Louise? I need to know. We should have a vote.
We'll put it. This week we will put it to a vote. I don't know who's the prettier. Susan. It was Susan Sarandon and who? Oh, well, that's a given. But there was Susan Sarandon, and who was the other lady that was in the movie? Well, the prettier.
Shania Twain, I'm good.
Oh, well, then there you go. All right. On that note, Jim, as always, dude, thanks for being here.
Take care, everybody. I love you guys. Be good. Absolutely.
Take care, bud. Honor. Just an honor, man. I tell you, I can't say enough about that man. He is everything everybody thinks he is. He is an absolute gem. And yes, I'm looking forward to getting down to the classic and spending some time, not only with Big Jim, but of course, getting to see a show that is definitely a bucket list for, I'm sure, a lot of us. It's going to be quite the event. And as I said, I'm going to take all of you along with me so that you can share in the experience, the show, and the ride. Speaking of rides, we're going to be talking to Lawrence right after this. Here's a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther.
How are you?
I'm good, dude. Great to see you again in person. It was the second time we had the luxury of doing that. I got to meet your production manager, your beautiful wife, and of course, two of your beautiful daughters as well. Lily, you were a huge help on Saturday. You and Lucy, I tell you. And Lucy, I don't know where she got the energy. She worked in the morning or worked late last night. She had a volleyball tournament. I don't know where she got the energy, but anyway, to the two of those girls, you were a huge help on Saturday. But it was an honor to meet the Brady bunch. I mean, the Gunther family.
Well, you didn't meet them all. I mean, you met actually Lucy's not mine. Lucy's Lily's friend, but Lily got Lucy to show up. And when Lily heard that Tammy couldn't do the show this year, she stepped up. She volunteered because every year since she's been able to walk, she's been going to that show, and she's been getting a gift from Tammy. And so for her to have the chance to give back, right? It's she had no hesitation whatsoever.
And that's what it's all about. And for Lily, who went on and on about the lives and the time that you and I spend together every Monday, and how excited she was to finally meet me and just share in that and talk about it. You see how, and she's 17. Lily's 17 and
just turned 17. Just turned 17. Yeah.
Just turned 17. It's had a big impact on her, and you can say what you want, but that is what we're hoping that the youth of tomorrow will do more of. So Lily, thanks for being a great mentor, a great example, and someone that young girls, young lads can follow when it comes to picking up the slack and filling the void. And yes, Tammy couldn't make it, and Lily took it upon herself to do. I don't know, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you shared that with us, Lawrence.
Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from the show?
Biggest takeaway from the show, I would say, is that boats are back in stock. There was a lot of boats there. My wife and I were setting up, last Wednesday, and we just took a quick walk around, and she said, my God, she said, it's just filled with boats. She's never, she's helped me do that show for years, and she's never seen it so full of boats. So that says to me, there are a lot of boats back in the dealership lots.
So some of the things that I think it's important that anybody who is possibly looking to purchase a boat, there are some things that you need to consider, some things that you need to be aware of. And Lawrence and I want to spend a little bit of time tonight talking about that, as well as, I'm sure, bullet points. So again, if you don't get a chance to watch this tonight, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook, of course, please join Lawrence and Bluefish Canada and Bluefish Radio, where it will be posted. So if you missed it here, you can join it there. But we're going to be talking a little bit about boats and the importance of knowing what you're buying, knowing what you're getting into. And Lawrence, what was one of the biggest things, biggest surprises, I will say, when it came to some of the boats that were on display this weekend?
I'd say pontoon boats are taking over, but that's no surprise, right? That's the number one segment of the boating market for the last probably 5 years at least, if not longer, in terms of, if you look at wake boats and bass boats and all the different types of boats, the pontoon boat is the fastest growing sector, and it's making up, the biggest single share of the market. You go to a place like Orleans Boat World, and they have like 8 pontoon boats lined up with a catwalk connecting the bows of all of them. So you go up on the catwalk and you just walk on to each boat and inspect them all one after the other. And a lot of people look at these boats and they go, well, they all look sort of similar. A lot of furniture up front, a lot of furniture in the back, maybe a couple fishing chairs off the back pontoons or off the front pontoons, and the more you spend, the more you get. There's no doubt about it. But they're evolving. And I think what I've heard is that while fishing pontoon boats are more and more popular in the United States. We haven't yet seen that up in Canada. What we're seeing in Canada is really the sort of cruiser, right? You know, you have it tied up at your dock at your cottage. And then, you know, after dinner, before dinner on a Sunday or whatever, you take your guests, your family out for a cruise, you show them the lake, you get them out on the water, everyone's enjoying themselves, relaxed, comfortable. It's still that kind of boat that we're seeing for the most part, right? And how much you want to spend determines how many options you're going to get. You know, the stereos and you know, the bridges and all of that. So, but they're beautiful boats, no doubt about it. I wish they were a little more fishy though.
So it's interesting, you know, Luke and his significant other. I don't believe they're married. I think they're just dating at the time. But it was interesting to see because they were a great example of how two folks who love to boat, one loves to fish a little bit more than the other, wanted to compromise. And you have hybrid pontoons now that are that living room on water, but also have the fishability of some of the fish and ski type models. If you are fishing snooze, fishing, whatever you want to call it. But needless to say, you can entertain the wants and desires of both. So, you know, for instance, if you want to do fishing, there are platforms for which you can sit up front. The trolling motor can sit there with you. You can do your fishing while, you know, your significant other can lounge and enjoy the sun, read a book, have a beverage, which was interesting because when we asked the OPP officer, what is one of the most frequently asked questions at the boat show, his reply was, how can I drink on a boat? How can I consume alcohol on a boat? And of course, pontoons.
They tightened that down pretty tight, eh?
Have they ever?
Oh yeah, that used to be you had to have a potty, some sort of potty on the boat, and then they all came up with these little tents that you could pop up and you put a little porta potty in there, and then it was, you know, you could now drink on the boat. Yeah. And then they realized, oh, that's, you know, what are they doing with these porta potties? Where are they emptying them out? And is that really sufficient? I mean, is that really enough? So they changed the rules. Now you have to have an actual toilet that's plumbed into a holding tank. So it's got to have a built-in holding tank that gets pumped out at some stage, you know, like a cruiser. And if you don't have that level of technology, there's no drinking on a boat. But face it, you count the cup holders, my friend. Count the cup holders, and you're on these little lakes, you know. Like I said, most of these pontoon boats are meant to be put in the water for the season and then come out at the end of the year. And they don't come with trailers necessarily. The trailers are optional. So you have someone come and haul it out for you and put it into storage. But I'll tell you a little bit about the trailers. So, I mean, they're about $4,500 for a trailer, but they are now actual trailers that hold the sponsons, right? The pipes. So they sit on the trailer now. It used to be the trailer would go into the middle between the sponsons and lift up the boat that way, like a scissor jack. But that meant the trailers were really narrow, and these things tipped over going around a corner. You had to be really careful on how you transported your pontoon boat. I mean, these things sit high, right? With a normal trailer and a V-type boat, a V-hull boat, the boat is sitting between the wheels, and the wheel wells come up on each side. With a pontoon boat, it's sitting on top of the wheels, just the nature of the hulls, right? So it's sitting up about, you know, that much higher on the trailer. So it's a little bit tricky to move from lake to lake to lake for an adventurous kind of fishing. But they're making them smaller. They're making them into the 18 foots, the 16 foots, and it's less of an issue to move them around, right? So, I mean, look, it's the fish and ski argument all over again. You know, the fishing ski boats where the one member of the family wants to fish, the other one says, well, we're not getting a boat. What about the kids? And they said, well, we can tow a tube behind this boat. It's not a problem. And then they get into it, and then they have all sorts of cushions up front and upholstery, and it's all sort of cruisability with a little bit of fishing on the side. And face it, you know, how often do you take the kids water skiing? If you don't have a cottage, how often are you bringing them to the lake to tow a tube around every year versus how often are you going fishing, right? So what I tell people is any boat with a decent motor can pull a tube. Just get a fishing boat and you can take your kids tubing. It's not a big deal, but then you get what you need and the kids can still go out and have fun.
100%. And for folks who who love pontoon boats, love John boats, love fishing skis, just aluminum boats in general because of their ease of transport and durability. Something to keep in mind, which was interesting that I learned this past weekend. Obviously, if you don't know, the price of boats has gone up, which of course has interest folks in secondhand. But if you are looking for a brand new boat, here are some of the things that you need to keep in mind that I learned of this past weekend. There is such thing as a luxury tax. I think that was really important, especially with the bass boat that was down at the end of the casting pond. That boat was a beautiful 22-foot Ranger. I believe it had a 250 on the back of it. It looked pretty decked out. It was gorgeous and eye-catching, but so was the price tag. And this is not a knock against Ranger or any other boats for that matter, but at $297 a week plus taxes, and then of course there's the luxury tax on that. If you've got the money, by all means, have at her because it keeps the economy going.
It's sold. That boat sold $135,000.
And not like on the Sunday, not like maybe midday Saturday. It sold Friday morning.
Yeah.
Not even the second day, Friday morning, which was the second day, but not even more than 24 hours into the show, and it was already sold.
Yeah, and then bass boats now, like the fully equipped fiberglass bass fishing machines that the tournament anglers look for, the 19-20-foot boats with the 250 horse plus engines, they're all over $100,000 now. Like there's very few that will pop down below that 100,000 mark. Even if you go to Bass Pro Shop and you look at the nitros, right, the fiberglass nitros like KVD runs, they're over $100,000 now too. Once you get the electronics on them and the power pulls, in the big motors, you're over $100,000 now. So, it is what it is. It's not for everybody. And are you going to tow a tube behind that and your kids? Well, you can absolutely. It's doable.
And if you have troubles with pulling tubes with the Ranger, of course, pontoon boats are no slouch, as we just mentioned. I thought they were meant for like 40s and 50s, maybe up to maybe a 70 or a 90. When you're seeing these pontoon boats with 200s, 250s, 300s, twin 300s,
twins,
it's not your grandpa's old pontoon boat anymore. These things are performance
luxury,
performance and luxury all as one. But
the other thing is you see a lot of those wake boats, a lot of the wake /ski boats, and they're the bane of, I think, the nature. They throw up these humongous waves at any speed, and you see them on these small lakes, and when they come out, if you're out there fishing, when these things start to come out and they're circling and circling and circling, it doesn't matter how far away they are, those waves come at you at some point and you're bouncing around like crazy. And if there's a few of them and there's constantly doing what they do, which is wakeboarding and water skiing, it gets to be almost intolerable, right? I mean, there's lakes I leave at some point because it's just not fun anymore to be out there. And then you think about the shorelines and the erosion that these things cause on the shorelines. You talk about the no wake zones. Like I said, it doesn't matter how far offshore these boats are, it's violating the wake zone.
Yeah, and it's a good point that you bring up, and I'm not sure how you tackle that.
I don't know either.
I don't know how you tackle that. I really don't.
Maybe it's a fade. Maybe it's a phase. I mean, these things burn a lot of gas, and maybe it's just something, that'll pass. Maybe it'll just
Now, getting back on the aluminum. So if the sticker price doesn't scare you, the availability of your new boat is something also to consider, because if you don't order it, I think we were told by June of this year, you won't see your boat this year. It will probably come next year, late next year, if at all.
There still are some shortages, So what the manufacturers told, a lot of the manufacturers told their dealers is put in your order, and the most you're going to get. They're giving each dealer a sort of a quota of how many boats they can order, and just to make sure every dealer gets enough. And because their demand is still high, and face it, we're bringing a lot of these boats into Canada from the States. So, I was talking to one of the marinas here in Ottawa, and he told me, he said, Lawrence, he said, I sold my quota. He said, I have a couple pending sales, but they'll wrap up and that's it for my quota. From this point forward, it's just PDI and service and maintenance and repairs on other boats. But that's it for my new boat sales for this year. He was very happy to have sold all his boats, but that's something he does every year. He prices his boats aggressively, and he sells his up to 100, 150 boats. He can move out. That's what he normally sells. 100 to 150 16-foot boats with a console in every year. And he does it mostly. He's done by June. He's done selling by June.
So the last thing, you're right, 100%. And the last thing that I wanted to mention to folks, especially when it comes to aluminum, because I can't speak to fiberglass. I don't know how that works when it comes to the materials that build a fiberglass boat. But when it comes to aluminum, this was something interesting. You don't necessarily pay the sticker price of what that boat costs today. With aluminum going up and certain other materials, you pay the price of that boat when it's delivered. Mm-hmm. So if the price of aluminum goes down, well, guess what? It's a windfall for you. You actually put a little bit of money in your pocket, or perhaps maybe you want to upgrade to a larger trolling motor or a better electronic. If it goes up, however, you're paying that difference.
Yeah. A lot of them won't lock into the price. You put it, they can't guarantee you the price because once it's, the dollar is shifting. There's still inflation in the United States, and a lot of the boats being manufactured in the States are going up 8-9% from last year. Plus, the dollar went down, 4 or 5%. So you're looking at a 15% increase for the same boat from from last year to this year. It's 15% more money. But I'll tell you, one point I'll make is a lot of people were trading in boats to get these newer boats this year. So look for some good deals on used boats at these dealerships, right? If they're selling a lot of boats, that means they're also taking a lot of trades. So there's going to be a lot of used boats on the dealer lots as well. And that could improve if that's what you're looking for, take advantage of someone else's depreciation and walk away with a well-loved, boat that's still in good shape and with lots of life left on it.
100%. And one thing that I will say to wrap this topic up is, if you have ever heard of Tiny Boat Nation, you'll see some of the DIY or DIY, I can't remember which goes first, videos that are put together when it comes to upgrading and refurbishing. So don't think just because it's an older boat, it can't be new again. And some of the upgrades and refurbishings that's done just on that YouTube channel alone is intriguing. But I think it's going to become a pattern going forward.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see people increase or upgrade their electronics, which I think the industry saw at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. A lot of people bought electronics.
Yeah.
A fair bit of electronics were bought again at the Ottawa show. The Bealers were one, as they posted yesterday. They upgraded their I think you're going to see a lot of folks doing that. That perhaps maybe are scared away from the whole market as it is right now. Let's refurbish it. Let's make old new again.
Well, that means there's going to be a lot of good deals on last year's top, of the line electronics, right? That are no longer top of the line. But, last year they were the top of the line. Are they no good anymore? Absolutely. They're still good. So you can get a smoking hot deal on some used sonar equipment as well. And just on the repair thing, I mean, a friend of mine bought a 15-year-old Lund Alaskan last year and it needed a new transom. Well, he went on YouTube and there was tons of YouTube videos on how to replace the transom board. And it's not that difficult. So he ordered a new transom board from a company in the United States. It cost $800, but it'll fit right in between the two aluminum slices. You just have to take the cap off and epoxy and slide it in, and voila. So it's these things can be done. You can fix these boats, yourself and keep them running well.
And Steve, you ask a great point. At what point does the boat market crash? I would have to say that if you have situations like Corey has mentioned, when you have in-house boat manufacturers, in your area, Princecraft is a great example, Canadian made. There is, I don't want to say a good amount of material that's available, but they've done a great job of making sure that they've surplused their supply when it comes to aluminum per se, so that they're not hampered by that fluctuating cost or the availability of aluminum. But needless to say, things are changing, and we've seen this. This is nothing new. You've been told this. If you watch the news, you understand it. But at the end of the day, it will be interesting to see where this all goes. As Steve's question.
Will these prices come down? I don't think they'll come down. Will the dollar go back up? That's a possibility. But back in 2007, when the Americans had their big financial crash and interest rates went up and people lost jobs and everyone had to walk away from their boat mortgages, and you could go, Canadians were going down to the United States and picking up smoking hot deals on boats in the States. I did it. A lot of people did it. It was driving the Canadian marinas nuts because they were losing sales, right? But our dollar was worth $1.10 American. It was worth more than the American dollar. And you could get a decent boat for 10 grand, a really good quality boat for, a quarter of the price. So there was, will that happen again? Well, I'm not going to say it can happen, but it doesn't look like there's any crash coming up anytime soon. But I could be eating those words in a year or two, right? So who knows?
Now, speaking of words that you will not eat or have to, insert a foot or two, we have some bullet points when it comes to some of the goings on in our fishing community, perhaps maybe in the industry or our environment as a whole.
Well, here's some good news. Back in 2020, a bunch of anglers did a demonstration fishery on the Fraser River to showcase the need to have access to fishing, and they were really promoting the idea of having a tagged fishery, a selective fishery, and they were saying, "Look, you got to give us someplace, sometime, somewhere to fish. You can't just shut everything down." A bunch of them were charged. And this was, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, September of 2020. So we just learned now that the charges have all been dropped from our angling protesters. So good stuff, you guys, for stepping up and making your point. And congratulations on having those charges dropped.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, Fraser River Sport Fishing Association was one of the groups that organized and it was a one day protest. Well, it's you got to do what you got to do sometimes. People protest, you get a little bit of publicity, but you got to make a point sometimes.
100%. That's great.
Here's some good news for Lake Ontario. The Department of Environment in New York and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry in Ontario have decided to increase the number of Chinook salmon going into Lake Ontario this year for 2023 by 10%. So close to 1 million Chinook will be released into Lake Ontario in 2023. That's good news.
It is, and especially for the groups that have not necessarily received pens during COVID. They weren't receiving fish. That's great to hear that there might be more pen culture. Well, I would say not pen culture in this, and like you see out in BC, but in the harbors, and there's various groups that do it. Credit River Anglers do it as well as the Trout and Salmon Association. They have these pens, and they feed these fish. They are maintained by the very water in which they are now going to inhabit. So it's really cool. It's a neat effort to get involved and be a part of. But for the sake of all of our guides, charter captains, and anglers as a whole who enjoy that species of fish and the fishery that Lake Ontario provides, that's a win-win.
Oh yeah, it's a win. And so why did it go up by 10%? Because the alewife population's going back up. So there's a food base that can support these fish. That's what they're looking at. And they're being a little conservative, I'm sure. But the fact I was out there last summer and we were looking at giant schools of alewife that started, 10 feet below the surface and went down 80 feet to the bottom. An 80-foot tall school of alewife minnows is nothing to sneeze at, right? That's a huge pile of food for these salmon. So it's good that the governments are recognizing this and saying let's do something for angling and the angling community and the guides and the tourism and all that. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Right on, dude. We got time for a couple more.
Okay. So here's an article from our doc, Gord Pizer, about walleye, right? And he's talking about the how do walleye zone in on your bait, when you're ice fishing, and he's making a big deal about the lateral line. And I've done a little bit of research on this as well, and I think it's fantastic that anglers are learning about the physics of fish and how they hear with their ears and they smell and they taste and they see, and they use all those attributes to hunt. But the one they use the most to really come in from a long distance is their lateral line. And I was talking to the guys at Livingston Bait. They had a big exhibit there at the Ottawa Boat Show. And, they're the ones that make those baits. If you put the two hooks in the water, it completes the circuit, and it creates a little sort of sound emitter inside the bait that sounds like feeding bait fish. And they said that can be heard as far away as 80 meters. 80 meters. And a rattle in a bait, like a when you rattle it with your hands, that's about 25 to 30 meters underwater. That only transmits. You would think, that rattle is a lot louder, but it's the sound wave itself. It's the frequency, and these emitters are a different frequency. It transmits quite a distance, and these lateral lines can hear these low frequencies, and that's how they find food from far away. Is they use their lateral lines to come in, and then once they get close enough, then they'll use their hearing and their eyesight to complete the deal. But it's read the article from Gord Pizer. He explains it a lot better than I do, and but you can find that there on the Outdoor Canada website.
And anybody who loves rattle baits will agree 100%.
One last thing.
One more. Yeah,
one more thing. Okay, here's some good news. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans, after making a promise in the last election to end open pen farming, has issued the dictate that there will be no more open pen fish farming on Vancouver Island, the north end of Vancouver Island, this Discovery Island area. That's going to end. 25 fish pen operation licenses will end in the next year. That fishing has to come out because they say there's sufficient evidence to show that these fish pens with the Atlantic salmon and the lice is putting local wild salmon at risk.
I'm sure there's a big duh with everyone that's watching right now. I find it interesting, though, that we kind of flip-flop back and forth when it comes to this subject. There was this big outpouring of I want to say a sentiment from DFO to say, you know what, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we need to pull back on these and relinquish the growing of them in migration zones. Now it seems as if recently, before we just heard this, that there might be a migration to now go back to pen culture, only because, of course, how do you supplement that loss of food production? Now we seem to be rescinding it to a certain degree when it comes to sea lice. So I would say this is a tennis match, and we're going to go back and forth over the net until
game's not over yet, my friend. You're absolutely right. And this is just one corner of British Columbia, not the whole coast, but a lot of people think it's the beginning of the end for open pen fish farming. And the East Coast, it's given hard on the East Coast of Canada too, that they want to see some of this in their territories as well. It's something that, there's not too many places where it's allowed anymore in the United States. It's not very prominent anymore at all. And Canada's announced Chile, Brazil, Norway, they're phasing it out in Norway. So, it's a quick way to make a buck, and we get cheap salmon out of it. That's for sure. But it's just, something's paying the price.
Well, the only guarantee we have is that you're going to keep us up to date as this game evolves and moves forward. Who has the advantage, where we are at a deuce, and when the game is finally over. But as always, Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us every Monday as you did and do with this wealth of information that you pass on to us and keep us informed with the goings on. But more so than anything, it was great to see you again. It was great
man.
To see your lovely wife and, of course, your daughters that were at the show. The Gunther family, big shout out to you folks at the tip of the hat.
Lily was telling me stories about you guys, man.
Okay, we'll have to save that for another show. It's not true.
I want some things now from you. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, we're all in trouble then. Lawrence, you take care. Again, make sure that you thank your beautiful wife for carting you around to our booth and spending some time with our CFNers and of course all those young anglers that we're casting and spreading the passion and hopefully catching the passion that we all share and love.
Yes. Yeah, man. Great to run into you again, buddy. It was too long, it's just crazy, that was years go by before we talk every week. It's just weird.
Absolutely. See you next Monday, dude.
All right.
All the best, my friend.
Thanks, man.
We got Jason Barnucz coming up next. First, a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
J-Dog's in the house. How you doing, Mr. Barnucz?
Dude, it's been quite the day, I have to admit. I was actually, you may not remember this, but I wasn't supposed to be on tonight's show. I was supposed to go to a seminar tonight.
It's interesting. I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm thinking there was a reason that you weren't at the show. We had talked before I'd left for Ottawa, and you're right. So was it the weather that canceled it, or
it's just the weather? I looked at it and I got up this morning. I looked at the radar, and I hate predicting weather, even though I spend a lot of my time predicting weather for work. And it's like, I think it's going to be bad, and I looked at the radar, and sure enough, I told the club, I was going to go see the Golden Horseshoe Outdoor Club. They meet in Hamilton on Barton Street. Great club, do lots of local work, a lot of youth programs. So I hate not going. And of course, on Mondays I work from home, but I was going to go into work today and just shuffle my schedule a little bit, right? I saw that radar and I'm like, man, getting there wouldn't be the problem, Scotty. It would be that hour drive home would have been probably 2 to 3 hours to get home, to be honest.
And Jay, I was watching and listening to, some of the folks that I follow that are big into the weather down the States. And, last night they had, a tornado. I don't want to say an outbreak, but there were some tornadoes that touched down, of course, in Norman, Oklahoma. They're dealing with the aftermath of that. There were more even closer to us in the Ohio Valley, which is, I don't know, man, that's hard to believe. I know we're getting closer to spring, but it's still February. How is it that we're chasing tornadoes in February?
Dude, there was thunder snow today in Exeter. Like these. So what we're getting these fronts. So last week we got that, little bit of an ice storm last week, really, and it was actually pretty bad. But we just keep getting these sort of low pressure systems coming up from the Gulf, and they're just bringing us lots of rain and lots of snow. But they're killing our ice fishing in Southern Ontario. They really truly are. Like it's a slow death, So, I was reading a statistic today. Actually, I'll share it because some of the CFNers might enjoy this stat. Well, I shouldn't say enjoy it. It's just interesting trivia. So there's a website called Great Lakes Ice Tracker, and they have a stat out there that right now we're at about 7% ice cover for the Great Lakes total. That's right now. Sorry, right now we're at 13, but it got down as low as 7%. Lake Erie has 0 ice right now, based on their tracker, and a lot of this is based on radar or satellite imagery, and based on it's not quite visual. They're using like different heat signatures on the ice, right? They can, but essentially it's pretty accurate, and we are sitting at a record. I don't know if it's the record low ice for the Great Lakes Basin, but it's close, and it won't be resolved until we get into like end of March, where spring comes and they finally call it. But yeah, it's it's a slow death down here for ice anglers. It really truly
100%,
is.
and it really is speeding up the migration of certain species of fish,
Oh, it's crazy.
namely walleye. We're starting to see them stage
Well-
and perhaps even entering some of the rivers. To
Well,
get
and that's it. So that's where we're headed on Saturday. We're going down to the Thames River. We're going to go walleye fishing. We called it.
Wow.
So I said to Trevor, I said, let's. So the Lake Simcoe Jumbo Perch contest that wrapped up last weekend, dude. So I'm a dad. I bought my kid's ticket. Okay, I paid the $50 for his ticket. I paid $50 for my ticket. He has won 2 prizes out of that Jumbo Perch contest. One was a bucket of stuff, probably worth $200 worth of tackle and rods, reels, line, hats. And then he gets a text from Mr. Chong that he won a large FXR Yamaha jacket that's worth around $350. He's cleaning up, man. He's clean. We only entered like 1 perch because it was maybe 12.5 inches like the first week of the contest. And then after that, John White and a few others at the top, they just kept weighing in 14-inch plus perch. So we're out of the running. But it's amazing the prizes they were giving away for that contest. And so Trevor's totally cleaned up. But we're gonna change gears. We're gonna do some walleye fishing on Saturday.
Well, you know what? We will live vicariously through you this weekend. Then I know I will. The aftermath of some of this snow will probably keep me fairly busy, and most other CFNers that live in the Southern Ontario area with the shovels and plows and snow blowers. Because not only are we getting this tonight, but I hear doozies coming on Friday. So again, it begs the question for folks who are just jonesing for steelheading. The snow, again, talk about a slow, painful death. Snow has to melt, then sun has to beat down, the waters have to warm, but in order to get those rushes of water that we truly need, that we kind of saw early in the fall with those deluges for steelheaders. Like, where are you right now? Are you ready to get?
So we've actually, so in Southern Ontario here, like we still have a lot of winter left technically, right? So now March 1st is what they call meteorological spring. So March 1st is when the meteorologists, that's their spring date, and then the 21st is the calendar date. Okay, the equinox. And anyways, and so we've already gone through our spring freshet. Like we've lost huge amount of snow. I want to say probably 2 weeks ago that the Thames and the rivers down here were up, at that peak spring level. So I talk about the Thames a lot because I spent a lot of time there in the spring, not just for walleye because you can fish there till March 15th, but for red horses, for cats. Yeah, it's kind of a spring destination. Well, usually the record spring flows are around 300 cubic meters per second. That's the peak. We hit that peak already, and to get to that peak, we lost most of our snow cover. So unless we get some more dumps of snow, we won't see a peak much. Well, there'll be ups and downs, but we probably won't see that peak again for a long time. So we've really got into that spring trend. It's slow coming. I know that sounds weird, but it's not like we're jumping into plus weather where it's plus at night. So that's the big thing for me is once we start seeing plus temperatures at night, that's when spring really kicks in. But we're not seeing that yet. We're still like +2, -5, +7, -1. We're just going through these swings, right? So, yeah,
incredible.
It is what it is, man.
And speaking of peaks, it's great to see the amount of snow. Although I'm sure folks that live in California aren't loving it. But no. The dumping of snow that they got, especially in the higher elevations, they're talking 8-9 feet of snow. Well, I'll tell you, Lake Mead and any other reservoir that captures all that fresh water for the cities below, they're going to be well stocked. And whatever looked like as a drought last year, it might be a flood this year with all of that with all that excess snowpack.
I agree, but you know what's great though is that these conditions are lining up for some decent spring fishing because we won't be hurt with that the freshet's already passed. So all we need now is just a little bit of warmth to get things going, and The walleye are still catchable when it's cold, but it's just a little nicer to fish when you're actually having to cast lines where it's +0 versus below 0, right? But dude, I have to share something with you, man. This is kind of a bit of a CFN exclusive. Okay. So one of my favorite baits to use for walleye in the spring in rivers is a swim bait. That's not new. That's a very common bait to use. In rivers like the Thames, where you got some muddy water in the spring, that's probably one of my favorite ones, a Berkeley ripple shad. It's got the chartreuse tail. I'll use also a straight white one, but these ones came out last fall and I haven't tried them yet, and I've been waiting. Maybe that's why I want to go so bad. I'm just like, screw ice fishing. I want to go catch a walleye. And these are them here. So this is called, and like, I'm trying to hold it up. This is actually called a bonefish by Berkeley. So it's a swim bait. It's like a ring fry. Okay. Wow. But and I've tested this out a little bit last fall. So the swing on this tail, because it's so supple, Scotty, it's impressive. And I really think they're going to love, those Thames River walleye are going to love that bonefish. And I threw a link up in the chat.
And one of the other reasons that I love a bait like that has, I want to say the appendages, or at least it looks like the vertebrae, the cartilage of what a fish looks like, is all of those nooks and cranny. If you put it in a Ziploc bag and you put in something like bait fuel or any other Berkeley or product, man, the scent you can give off with one of those plastics.
Well, what's cool about this bait is because of that segmented body, is that so with a swim bait, you have to retrieve it at a certain speed to get that tail wag.
Yeah.
But these ones will wag at such a slow retrieve because of that body shape, because that segmented body just wants to shake it at such a slow. You just basically throw it out and it doesn't take a lot to crawl it. And so what's nice is that you can just, and I like to use as small as the head as I'll get. That's a 1/4 ounce. That's about as big as I want to go. And that's not quite big enough for some people, but I find I want to try and cast it up in the current, let it get down to the bottom, and then work it over top of the bottom. I find a 3/8 ounce, it just gets snagged up too much. And the rivers are snaggy, logs and wood and everything else. So I find that 1/4 ounce is about the right one for,
well, especially now this time of year with the water temperatures the way they are, walleye aren't necessarily chasing forage like they will in let's say at least a month anyway. Let's give it a month, but maybe even less than that, depending on what kind of temperatures we see. But they're not really chasing it, so it kind of has to fall. And that slow fall this time of year is deadly for walleye.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but when you're retrieving this properly, when you're retrieving this through the river, you actually snag the occasional fish as well, especially the suckers, because they're all grouped up together. And so the walleye will grab these. Now the odd red horse will grab this too, believe it or not. But typically the walleye, it's a very light hit. They usually don't hit it very hard, but you want to just crawl this past them. And if you're in the right area, especially the colder the weather, you want to be in those deeper, slower pools. And just so everyone knows, so this is walking and wading. We're not going to have a boat doing this or a kayak. It's very much just take my favorite presentation, the way to present this is on a 7-foot medium action spinning rod with, 8 to 10 pound braid, and then probably a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. And, we pack pretty light. I take my steelhead hip pouch or sling pack, dump it all out, and I bring a box of jig heads and about 4 or 5 packs of swim baits, and you go for a walk, and that's your day. So looks like Saturday's supposed to be +1 or +2 with a little bit of wind. That's not the nicest weather, but oh well, we'll go give it a shot. You know what I mean?
It sounds like walleye weather, and if it's not walleye weather, it's steelhead. So hopefully you catch a good cavalcade of a whole bunch of species. But I was interested too at the show to see the number of fish. I think it was Brent Bochuk that was sharing a lot of the pictures of catfish. I had no idea catfish will chase after a crankbait. We've heard it with carp the odd time that they'll go after, but catfish, amazing to see the size of plug that you can troll cast, and the size of catfish that you can catch with it. I learned that this week, and of course, I'm asking that or mentioning it only because it's usually at this time you're transitioning into catfish.
That's right. Well, it's funny because this is the first year. Well, I thought it was going to happen this year, but it's not. The London Boat Show is going to be happen in 2024. But I used to go to the London Boat Show, and I've given lots of catfish seminars there. And the one year I was given a seminar right before Paul Powis. And Paul and I have, man, we have talked a lot at some behind the backstage seminars for years. And he was telling me how like he hates channel catfish. Like he'll be out trolling for walleye off Peely Island, and one big cat will ruin his entire spread, right? And they'll grab anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain areas that he avoids because of the catfish, and big ones too. It's amazing out in the middle of Lake Erie, catching catfish.
As again, usually using cut bait, a bell sinker, or some kind of sinker on the bottom is I thought the best way to catch them, and the only way to catch them. But I was proven wrong yet again this past weekend by Brent, and shown the error of my ways. And folks, if you know your catfish and you know your catfish areas, try a crankbait next time.
So I see Trevor and Alicia chatting and TJ chatting in the chat here, because last June we went with TJ and Alicia to Lake St. Clair, and Trevor and I were in the fish off. And so there's this little sweet area of Lake St. Clair that the Raytrowskis and Trevor and I, we called it the zoo. And we call it the zoo because it is so full of different species of fish. You don't know what you're going to catch on any cast, especially in that June, middle of June timeframe, because there's gar, channel catfish, panfish, buffaloes, white bass, silver bass, like just everything. It's all in there. And Scotty, you got about 8 different rods from ultralight to heavy casting, and you're switching through. So last June, Trevor, we're drifting through this area, and channel cats will nest in these little back bays where they actually hollow out, just like largemouth and smallmouth and other panfish will make their nest. Catfish will do the same. And so Trevor, we were floating over these channel cats. I could see them, and they're coiled up dude, it's like a cat on the end of your bed. They're just curled right up, and the males are black as black can be because they're in spawning mode. And Trevor's like, how do I catch one of these things? And I'm like, just drop a jig on it. So we didn't have a flipping jig rigged up, but we had a chatterbait tied on, right? So he took his chatterbait, flipped it into the bed, just like you'd, flip it into a log with a bass. And sure enough, the big male channel cat rolled over, grabbed the chatterbait, and he caught it. And that was our channel cat entry for the CFN fish off last year. Chatterbait caught catfish. Crazy.
It was a beast of a catfish too. I remember that.
Yeah, it was. It was a real ugly one. It was unbelievable how nasty that thing was, but it was a really cool catch. And to see, where Trevor's like, it's that typical father-son where I'm like, dude, just throw it in there. And he's like, really? I'm like, throw it in there. And sure enough, he threw it in. And I'm pretty sure on the first one, he missed the first one. He didn't expect it to hit right away. So on the next fish that we saw, he threw it in and got it on the second try. Pretty impressive. So
you had the weekend off, obviously recouped from the show. It didn't probably take near as long as some of us older gents, but again, great takeaway from the show. It's in the show season. There's lots that are still to come. But this past weekend, did you get out on the water at all?
No, you know what? I have been recovering from the show all week, dude. I've had this cold lingering or something going on. It's not COVID. Something's going on. So yeah, so I've been laying low, and actually we spent a bunch of time at home this past few days getting things ready for our spring season, actually. So I actually set up an area downstairs here where Trevor, I set him up a desk, bought him a light where he can rig tackle and make videos and do stuff like that. So we did kind of that on the weekend. That's what's funny is sometimes you're so busy fishing, you got to make time to prepare for fishing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what we did on the weekend, because this coming weekend, so we're going to hopefully go to the Thames on Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm doing seminars at the boat show in Hamilton. I just put a link up in the chat. If you order your tickets online, you can use a discount code BOAT. I think you save $2 off a ticket. So it's not a bad little show. They do a good job. The company that runs it, they typically do shows in London, Hamilton, and Barrie. This year, they're just doing the Hamilton show. Next year, they're going to do all 3 locations again. Our good friend Brent Bocek is emceeing the seminar stage. And you met Daniel. Well, you've known Daniel before, but Daniel was on the weekend up in Ottawa. So he's doing seminars this weekend too. I'll be on stage on Sunday afternoon talking about kayak fishing. So everyone if you're in the Hamilton area, just come on down. It's a pretty inexpensive show. There'll be a few dealers there. It's not as big as the spring fishing show. I know that Bill's Bait will have a booth there, Free Time Sports, lots of boats for sale. It is more of a boat show than a fishing show, but there's going to be good seminars. I saw the Birds of Prey is going to be back, the Birds of Prey exhibits, a lot of stuff to do for the families. Darren King from Doss King to have a booth there, Doss King Kayaks. So I'll be going there Sunday. So yeah, we got a pretty busy weekend running up ahead. So looking forward to it.
Right on, brother. That's awesome. Well, I will say this, when it comes to product and what I saw purchased at this past show here in Ottawa, one product that I see, I don't want to say flying off the shelves, but it has a steady interest, and there's a steady amount of it that disappears every time I see a bag being carried. That bait fuel. There has been a lot of talk about that, and I've begun to see it firsthand. But they were also talking about a lot of the Berkeley line of scents. Maybe if you got any close by, just so that we have, for folks who don't know the array of scents. I know Berkeley has a whole bunch of them. Obviously, if you know Gulp, you know that scent. But there's a lot of other scents that Berkeley provides as well.
Yeah, so there's trying to think of what I got handy.
Because I'll tell you this, one of the first scents that I remember seeing as a kid, and this was years ago, was like the salmon scent. They had that salmon scent, and then
so just hold on 1 sec, Scotty. They give me honestly 5 seconds.
You got it.
All right, 5 seconds.
Okay, so when Jay's gonna go get scents, why don't we switch over to Moose? We'll talk to Moose. Moose, you're coming up next, buddy.
I am coming up next. Super excited.
Right on, dude. I saw something flashing in the background. What was that, brother?
Oh, I got a couple of baits here that piqued my interest at the show, so I'm going to show them off. I'm going to not break them down, but I'm going to fill you in on a couple of things here. A couple lures, couple hooks, couple baits. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Right on. We'll see.
What's up, handsome?
Hey, Moose, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Not much. Loving the chat so far. Let's see what you got.
Listen, so I'm going to keep it real simple, guys, because I know I've been yakking for a while. So, so typically what Berkeley's doing is, we're going to start with power bait. Okay, so power bait, it doesn't have a scent that comes off it, but when fish grab it, they actually can taste the bait, right? There's a scent infused into the bait. Okay, so that's the difference. When we get into Gulp, now we actually have Gulp baits, and they're basically marinating in Gulp. That's like the Gulp Alive spray that you get. Gulp baits, Gulp Alive. It's a water-soluble bait, so when you hook a Gulp bait and you put it through the water, that scent's actually going through the water. Now, the trouble with Gulp is that when it dries out, it sticks on your hooks. So that's the number one problem with Gulp. Gulp works awesome, but it would stick to your lures. And if you left that lure on, that bait on, it would dry out. So I have to show you guys this one. And this is not a new one for a lot of folks on this show, but I'll do it. So this is the purple bag, okay, the Max Scent. So with Max Scent, for everyone out there, it's basically a hybrid between power bait and Gulp. So what Berkeley did was, that's just a flatworm. So it maintains the integrity of power bait, meaning it doesn't dry out, it stays the way it is, but it has scent within it, and that scent actually comes out in the water. And why that's important is that the fish, when there's scent coming off the bait in the water, the fish can actually smell it, and then when they come up to it, they can taste it. And that's the important part about scent that people don't realize is fish can smell it and then they can taste it. Now with power bait, there's not a lot of smell, there's just taste because they're not putting anything off of it. Okay. But on these max scent baits, they wanted to have a bait that's also like reusable, last longer, and they cost a little bit more per bag. They're about $9 a bag. And actually, that's what's great about this time of year. A lot of the newer baits coming out, like even max scent shapes, there's some great deals on them right now. So, but yeah, that's basically the difference, guys, when you have sort of stinky on one end, not as stinky, more practical, and really stinky on the other end. Like those are the three main things. When it comes to Gulp Alive, like spray like this, so if I'm going to the Thames this weekend, Scott, I'm going to go walleye fishing this weekend, I'm going to use those power bait. You know, I'm going to use these new swim baits from Berkeley, but I'm going to keep this in my pouch and give them a spray of that as well. That way, as they're swimming through the water, this is coming off the bait. Fish are smelling it. Then when they grab the bait, they're tasting it. So 1-2 punch.
Hey, is there ever a time where there's too much scent? Is there a time where it's like there's no need to use it?
No. No. Like I think to your point, I think there is time when it doesn't matter, man. Like Moose, like I could throw. I don't even know if I have it up here. Like, okay, this is no offense to Brendan Nags. This is no offense to Nags at all. I keep this. I got this in a free tackle pack from a contest somewhere. Now, Trevor's best buddy, Owen, his best kayaking buddy, uses this color actually, and I was shocked. This is like the ugliest jig I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what it is about that blue with the green pumpkin. It is just.
But it works. It works.
So, dude, yeah, last fall, we're out kayak fishing in one of the local marinas because the weather was bad. And Trevor's buddy Owen was slamming largemouth. He caught a big bowfin. I'm like, what are you using? And he shows me, and it's the same two-tone jig. And I'm like, dude, I keep that in my office because it's like the ugliest jig I've ever seen. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's not the ugliest jig. It's the ugliest color you've ever seen.
True. Ugliest. It is the perfect ugliest jig I've ever seen. Ugliest color. But I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. You can use a hot dog, right? It doesn't matter some days. So like, I like hot dogs. You want to lure me, I could probably get lured with a good hot dog. But truly, it doesn't matter. But I think, Moose, to put the odds in your favor, scent. And maybe it's not just scent for the fish where I talked about smell and taste. It's also getting our scent, whether it be sunscreen,
100%.
whatever. Yep. You're covering that. You're sort of washing it off your own baits. And you know, I'm not the first. After I put sunscreen on, if I'm out smallie fishing at Erie, it's not the first time where I put a little shot of Gulp in my hands and just did this, just to kind of help get that sunscreen smell off my hands. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very, very, very true. I was going to say that it's more. I use it more along the lines of, yes, it's a good fish attractant, and yeah, they do hold on to the baits longer, because we've all kind of done our own tests. But 1,000%, whatever oils you have on your fingers, I'm a smoker. It is what it is. Y'all know this.
Yeah, sure.
If I grab a Rhythm Wave or I grab a Senko or whatever it is, any bait, those oils transfer to the bait and therefore transfer to the water. They could smell that. Sunscreen's a huge one. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, it's the scent is it's a multi-purpose use tool.
Absolutely. Jay, we're gonna let you go, dude.
Okay.
Looking forward to some big walleye pictures
Let's hope.
weekend. As I said, we live vicariously through you. Hopefully, you're feeling better. And if you're not, Trevor's gonna pick up the slack, and I'm sure the Raytrowskis will be there as well. So we're looking forward to all of you having a great walleye weekend.
Have a great weekend, guys. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you, Moose.
See you next week.
Everybody, good to see you.
See you next week. Take care, buddy. Well, Moose.
Well, what's up?
I tell you, man, it was awesome. It's been less than 24 hours. Saw you. I did get a second win, but by the time I did get home, man, I couldn't wait to crash. Just like Jay had mentioned, just like Jim had mentioned, you wake up and even Steve this morning, you know, you do that show And of course, we had the International Boat Show, or the Spring Fishing Boat Show at the International Center, and then of course the Ottawa Show. We're not spring chickens anymore, and it takes a toll.
No,
I'll tell
absolutely.
you, it made it all worthwhile. And when we handed over what was left from the Ottawa Show and put a little bit of money to take care of some of the balance, it was
Some of the expenses for sure.
made the whole weekend.
I mean, I don't know if people realize. I mean, you see it. You've done the whole long days.
Yep.
I don't think people understand and realize what goes into these shows, whether it's a boat show or a fishing show or a hunting show or a motorcycle show. The behind the scenes, it's like a well-oiled machine. I mean, it blew my mind when I got to see the boat show, the room at the Intercare Center in Toronto, go from empty to completely loaded, from guys doing the backdrops and people doing the carpets and people setting up the booths, bringing in the boats, getting rid of the trailers, forklifts all over the place. Like about 7 days to set up that boat show. And it's huge. It's massive. 3 or 4 rooms, the indoor lake, like 7 days to set it up. And you have 1 day to take it down.
Yeah.
So it's big. The days are long, but I hope people can appreciate the amount of work that, the Andy Pilatas of the world and the Kyle Carruthers of the world and all the guys over in Ottawa. And, there's a lot of work that goes into these shows. And that's why we push people to attend, because we want to continue doing these shows. We want to continue to feature new product. And this is where we get to meet and greet and chat. Without these shows, it would be really difficult for a lot of these companies to get to where they are, right? So the shows are super important, and you experienced that firsthand this weekend.
100%, dude. And again, big shout out to you also who managed to do a fantastic job, Herculean job, in such a short period of time to get all that swag done. And not only swag, but cool swag. And the Eat, Sleep, Fish, Repeat. That was a very, very popular t-shirt, especially on Sunday. We went through quite a few of them on Sunday. But needless to say, the new design on the hoodie, that new design plus the hats, a lot of folks purchased, and we can't thank them enough for doing so. But as I said, we had that luxury of being at the casting pond. Folks, like you just said, saw the effort that was going into the work. You know what? OFC Nation, I would say, benefited from all that work. And of course, there were so many partners. I know Steve Barnett. I know his wife Jen. I don't know if you know Sam Cook at all, but of course, all of these incredible lads that helped out in a huge way helped benefit our platform as well. And we can't thank them enough for what they did.
No, the amount of, I was talking to Steve Shaw today. I mean, if I could call everybody and thank them, I would, but I don't have all the contact names and numbers. But I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that there are people like this on our team, because without them, none of this is possible. And I said that to Steve, dude, if it wasn't for you on Saturday and Sunday, A, we would have got robbed at the show. People just would have walked away with hats and shirts. And B, we wouldn't have been able to cover costs. And the reason why it's important for us to cover costs is we don't do this to make a profit. We do this to cover costs and make sure that we can continuously keep people in the loop. There isn't thousands of dollars to be made on hats and shirts, guys. And we all know this. To make a hat costs $15. You sell it for 25 or 10 or 5 or whatever the case may be. But throughout the year, you end up giving to every single charitable organization that sticks their hand out and says, "Hey, we've got a promo, and do you have a prize pack?" I know 6 people in the past month. They're like, "I've got a Jack and Jill. A lot of them are fishermen and hunters. Can you put together some prize packs?" That's 6 hoodies. That's 6 hats. I'm not charging for those. Those are just donations. So these shows are where we cover our costs, and everything else after that is a bonus, because we can host events like the charity tournament where we have food, we have drinks, we have free stuff to give away. That's really what it's all about. It's just growing that community and being able to fund these events.
Absolutely. Speaking of events, of course, our next OFC Nation event is coming up very, very soon, right after the Classic, after we all arrive home. It is CanCast Fishing and Tackle Store in the Peterborough area. And I'll tell you, Kyle Carruthers, he's blowing the lid off this show this year with the
it's exciting.
with the
It's exciting.
and all of the other vendors that are going to be showing up. Wow, this is going to be quite the show.
It is. It's a one-day shootout. I mean, Kyle could break it down for you in seconds, but he's done really well with it. Really, really well. We're all super excited. If you guys don't know and you're just hearing about it, it formerly was known as the Bowmanville Tackle Swap. And the Bowmanville Tackle Swap kind of graduated to the Peterborough area, and we were in the Morrow building. And then Kyle said, you know what? There was too many people in the lineup. We need a bigger space. I'm going to take over the whole arena. So they've got the whole arena plus the other outlet building that was there. So it's going to be chocked full of goodies. April 2nd, doors open at 9 and they go to 4. Now, obviously, the last time the show ran, there were some issues with one entrance and a lineup and so on and so forth. But you couldn't help that. There was nothing that we could have done, or he could have done, to help that. Now that there's 2 buildings, multiple entrances, the Peterborough Memorial Center is going to take care of the door and the entries. Like, you got to think, they put what, 3, 4, 5,000, 6,000 people in to watch a hockey game, a Peterborough Pete's game. So, and everybody goes in and out within minutes. So the lineup is not going to be an issue anymore. So if any of you are thinking of coming up and you're thinking the lineup's going to be an issue, it's not. It's not. Entry is going to be very simple. You walk up, you scan, you go in, you enjoy. Now, there are some things to be said about that show. So again, April 2nd, you can buy tickets online. So, and I'll tell you why you should buy tickets online, because there may be a massive giveaway. Well, there is going to be a massive giveaway, but there may be an opportunity to double your chances at a massive giveaway if you purchase your tickets online. So if you go to the tickets.memorialcenter.ca, or type in Peterborough Memorial Center and then go to events, you can purchase your $10 ticket to CanCast for April 2nd. And I believe what Kyle's going to do is he's going to enter the people that have pre-purchased tickets. He's going to enter them in with a second ballot to win a giant prize. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but when I say giant, like, it is definitely the biggest prize pack I have ever heard of in Ontario. Easily in Canada. The largest prize pack ever to be given away at a show, for sure. So, go online and buy your tickets before April 2nd, and you'll get 2 opportunities to win that giant prize pack.
Well, listen, if you're excited and this excited about it, it must be something. But the show itself is really something, because at the end of the day, as I've heard, a lot of folks are looking to get in and purchase a booth or become a vendor at the show.
She's full.
It's out.
She's full.
Right now, Kyle has 45 deep when it comes to requests to get on the waiting list. So
there is a waiting list. It is full. And I mean, I'm not going to get into the politics of stuff, but I've seen it happen with other shows and other people. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, these guys put their necks out on the line to give us a platform to do our thing. Why are we going to question it? Why are we going to wait till the last minute to make a decision to see if anybody else is coming? If they're going above and beyond, putting all this money out, whether it's, again, the Kyles, the Andys, the Steves, the Mikes, the Johns of the world of trade shows, they're giving you a platform. Nobody's going to chase you. And look, now you've got a lineup of 45 people that are looking to get into the show and can't because they didn't want to do it and didn't think it was going to be busy, or who knows? Who knows? The finances may not have been there, but at the end of the day, you definitely want to get in on you want to get in on the next show as fast as possible, because it does sell out. All of them sell out. All of them sell out. So
now there was talk about perhaps maybe this being a weekend show, a 5-day show. Is it the 1-day show that it was last year, Moose?
It is a 1-day show. I am not aware of any 2, 3, 5, 10-day fishing shows. No, I know he's just too busy to do it, and at the end of the day, it's just too much. So you want a multiple day show, go to Andy's show. You want a 1-day shootout, come down to CanCast. they're two completely separate entities. It's not. I don't even think Kyle's even mentioned the option of doing a 2-day show or a 1-week show or 5 days. But hey, who knows? Anything could happen. I mean, would it be just as successful if it was 2 days? Maybe, possibly, could be, maybe not. Maybe, who knows? You don't know. Maybe it is way too busy, way too crowded, way too nuts that it does have to be 2 days. Who knows? But with that being said, the more days, the higher the costs. So that's another thing that people got to think about. So that's for people that are coming from out of town, that's 2 nights of hotel instead of 1. That's double the cost of the booth instead for 2 days, double the cost of the building, double the cost of the staffing, double the cost, everything goes down, double, and costs go up. Some people can't do that, right? So from what I know, it's 1 day right now.
Absolutely, which again reaffirms the importance of making sure that you're there. You're there the 1 day, and as vendors, there is going to be no fluff. It will be fishing orientated. If you are an angler and you want to look for stuff that is angling exclusive, you're going to see it at this show. You have 1 day to see it, and of course, there are 2 venues, 2 places to enter. And there's going to be a lot of foot traffic. And
there's multiple. There's more than 2 places to enter. There's 2 buildings. There's more than 2 places to enter.
Yeah.
But instead of 1 doorway, you've got multiple doorways. Like, you got to think of the number of hockey teams that go through there, and the number of people. And when that arena is full, they get those people in and out in no time. So there will be no waiting.
There you go.
I mean, as far as vendors go, geez, if you go to the Facebook page, the CanCast Fishing and Tackle Facebook page, again, constant updates of vendors and promos and things that are happening. If you go to the YouTube channel, the CanCast Fishing Show, I think they're on episode 10 now, and so they're always bringing people on and talking to people that are going to be at the show and keeping you up to date that way. So those are 2 good avenues, and I'm gonna let this slip, but again, if it doesn't work out the way I think he wants it to work out, don't get angry with me. But I believe if you subscribe on YouTube, and so if you like and subscribe on YouTube, I believe there may be another giveaway or another promo bonus. It hasn't been set in stone just yet, but I think that's another giveaway too. Is go to the YouTube channel, their YouTube channel, CanCast Fishing Show, and hit subscribe. It's not only going to keep you up to date, but it's also going to give you an opportunity to win some stuff and learn some things. I mean, you've got guys like Mark Hunter, you've got guys like Sean McCall, you've got the boys from Pro Water Baits, Vic, like Mercer Marine. The list goes on and on. Greg Guitar, the Muskie Dude, like tons and tons of information, and good information at that. Once a month or once every 2 weeks or whatever it might be, and stay in the know.
Absolutely. So multiple buildings, multiple entrances, multiple vendors, multiple people, and multiple opportunities to win a prize and take a whole bunch of stuff away. I'm sure there's going to be sales. I'm sure there's going to be deals.
It's disgusting the amount of deals that will be there. It is gross. Once the vendor list goes up, and that's why I say keep an eye on the Facebook page. Once the vendor list goes up, you're going to start seeing all these different deals pop up, because they all want to advertise their deals, because they all know that it's 1 day. You're going to go in, you're going to run to that booth, or you're going to run to that space and just buy that deal. I can't even tell you the number of people that sold out last time, whether it was the guys with the oil, whether it was the guys with the Merc, I think it was the Merc oil. It flew off the shelf. You couldn't even keep it in stock. Like, it was nuts. It's crazy. It's exciting. It's fun. It's not a stand around and talk for 45 minutes type of show. It's a go spend some money, get what you need for the season, and then have a chat or two. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So here are the links, of course. Thanks, Steve, for sharing these. If you're looking to buy tickets, that is the link to do so. And, of course, as Moose has mentioned, it provides you a great opportunity to win a prize that has yet to be announced, but it sounds colossal. So make sure.
It is colossal. I'm not going to lie to you. It is colossal. I even know what the prize is for next year, and that's going to be even bigger than this year's. So you could just imagine once this year's prize has been announced, dude, it's insane. It's nuts. It's something that I think is it's something that it's cool as hell. It's awesome. It's a big giveaway. So super exciting. It's going to be a fun show. And another thing, this boy's doing all the apparel. So there is going to be CanCast apparel available as well to help those guys cover costs. CanCast. Awesome. See the hat? So it'll be hats and t-shirts available at the show as well.
And the date, if anybody wants to know or they're thinking about coming, when is the date?
April 2nd, Peterborough Memorial Center, 9 to 4.
You heard it here.
Be there, be square. Honestly, you want to buy your tickets online before you show up. Buy your tickets online. Dude, they're $10 a ticket, $10 plus tax because you got to pay the big guy, right? You got to pay the government. But $10 a ticket. Kids under 12 are free. Yeah, just we'll see you there. We're gonna be there. We're gonna have a bunch of show specials. We've got our promo that we're gonna talk about and discuss as soon as I'm done rambling here. But you want to stay in the know, go to the YouTube channel. You want to stay in the know, go to the Facebook page for sure. This is one you don't want to miss, guys. I promise.
Right on. Well, Moose, thanks so much, dude, for sharing some time, sharing some info, and of course, all of the swag that you provided our CFN and OFC community this past weekend, and of course at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. Dude, without you, there wouldn't be much to wear. There wouldn't be much to represent. We wouldn't have a lot to talk about.
Well, listen, I appreciate everything you do. Are you kidding me? Like the amount of, I know I'm behind the scenes, I'm doing my thing, but it doesn't need to be said. Scotty is the man, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, dude. You are a gem. You are one of the greatest humans I have ever met. And we're going to continue to do this for years to come. So I can't wait for the Peterborough show. I can't wait for the oh my God, I'm lost for words. The charity tournament. Charity tournament. So why don't we quickly talk about that?
Macintosh CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. It goes on and on and on. But yes, you're going to be a busy community. As soon as the hard water is done and the soft water has come, we are going to see all of you at various venues and various organized events. Yeah. We look forward to it. 100%.
100%. Did you want to mention the charity tournament?
It's totally up to you, Moose.
How much time we got?
Well, we've hit the 2-hour mark. And I will say it is getting on. We do have a lot of snow to shovel before it's nighttime, but why don't we save that for the next time that you come on, my friend?
Deal. We'll see you all next week. See you all next week. Scotty, thank you very much for having me on, bud.
You take care, Moose. Thanks for sticking around, buddy. Really appreciate it. All the best, bud. And that's it. That's a wrap. That's our show. It has been jam-packed as always. Again, can't thank all of you enough for sticking around, coming here each and every Monday and sharing the love, sharing the support, and just sharing your time. It means the world to us. I love you all. I hope you guys have a great week. As always, stay safe, stay warm, stay out of the snow, and we look forward to seeing you somewhere, whether it be on the hard water, soft water, or on a shore bank, or, of course, at the CanCast show. Either way, we love to see you. You guys stay classy, and we will see you tomorrow for Tarny Tuesday and the final day of the Winter Fish Fest. Dave, it's time. Take us away, my friend. It's been a blast.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.